Hello and welcome to Kim's Cozy Corner. I am going to can some of my greens today. Hi everyone, my name is Kim and I am going to show you how I can my greens today. I've already picked them outside. I have turnip greens and just a few mustard greens. So we're going to mix all of those greens together and we're going to can them today. We're going to pressure can them today. And I'm just going to show you that very simple process. So the first thing that I'm doing right now is soaking right here in the sink. I am soaking the greens and I am going to soak these greens for about 30 minutes. I sprayed yesterday. Now I didn't spray the greens, but I did spray next to the greens. And so I'm going to soak for about 30 minutes because I want to make sure that I get everything off of them. And then I am going to wash them thoroughly. So when I get to that next step, I will bring you back. By the way, I am soaking them in cold water. Just so you know, this is cold water. Okay, I have the greens washed. They've been soaking. And now we are going to blanch them. Now you could put all your water in your pot, get your pot to boil, and then put your greens in. Y'all, I'm not doing all of that. Let me just be honest with you. I'm not. I'm going to take these greens. I'm going to put them over in this pot right here. Just like this. And we're going to put it on the stove. And cook it for about 10 minutes. Well, once it gets hot, we'll cook for about 10 minutes. So the greens are on. I fill the pot up about half full of water. And we're just going to bring them to a boil. Let them boil for 5 minutes. We're just trying to wilt it down. So when we go to put it into the jars, I'll be able to get more into the jar. That's all we're trying to do. We're really not trying to cook at this point. But the greens are in. And let's get them to a boil. Okay. I am back to preserving the greens. Now, I took a break. I put those greens in the pot and I hadn't done anything to them since. It's been a couple of days. So I'm going to show you the greens. We're going to get them warmed up and then we're going to finish that canning process for the greens. So in the pot here, you see the greens are there. I haven't done anything, but they're cold. I have put them in the refrigerator. So we got to warm them back up so we can get them canned. While the greens are warming up over there, we're going to get our canner set up over here. I will be using my Presto digital pressure canner. The links to all my products will be in the descriptions below. This is an electric canner that does the same thing that a pressure canner does, but it kind of just walks you through the steps. Now, some people don't believe in using digital canners. That's to each their own. Do your own research to determine if you should use an electric canner or not, an electric pressure canner or not. But I will be using the digital electric pressure canner. So the first step of this is to warm up the jars. And we need to also talk about how long we need to cook the greens. So I'm going to go get my ball book of canning and I'm going to show you how we're going to cook these greens. This is the book that I use for all of my pressure canning. I have one other book, but this is the primary book that I use. There are others out there, but I follow this book for pretty much everything that I do. In the book, it tells me for leafy greens, I need to cook pressure can my pint-sized jars for 70 minutes and my quart jars for 90 minutes. I believe I'm going to need 3 pint-and-a-half-size jars for this process. Just in case, I'm going to grab 1 quart jar just to be safe. And to get these set up in the canner, I need to fill each of the jars about halfway up. And I always put extra jars because you never know. So to be safe, I have 2 wide mouth quart jars and I have 2 1.5 size jars. So we're going to get this party started. So we're going to plug up our canner and it's going to ask me some questions. Do I want a pressure can or do I want a water bath can? And I definitely want a pressure can, so I'm going to press the button. And now it's asking me how long do I want to cook them for? Well, pint jars are 70 minutes, quart jars are 90. And so I have quart jars in here, so I have to cook it for 90 minutes. The longer time is the one that you have to use. So we're going to do that. Now it's telling me to insert the jars, which I did. And there's a line inside the pot here. And so I fill the water up to the line. And then each one of the jars, I put up half full of water. I've done that as well. I'm putting my top on. I don't need this. This is the regulator. I don't need that. And now I'm going to hit the button saying I've inserted the jars. And now the jars are going to warm up. And then it's going to tell me when I need to fill the jars. Y'all, that's it. It's super, super simple. That's it. And we're going to have these jars in the canner. And then I can step away for the next 90 minutes or so. It'll pressure can them. It'll cool down naturally. And it'll tell me when I can open it and it's ready to remove the jars. So let's wait for the next step and then I'll bring you back. Okay, the canner says it's time to fill the jars. So let me show you. So right here on the canner, it says fill jars. So I'm going to open the canner. And we're going to pull the jars out and fill them with the greens. Now that it's time to fill the jars, we're going to move the heated greens over here and we're going to pour off all of that water that we blanched them in, and we're going to use fresh boiled water to fill the jars with the greens. So I'm going to start the coffee pot and then I'm going to come over here and show you how we're going to pour the water off and fill the jars. These greens smell good enough to eat and they've only been cooking for just a couple of minutes. One of the things that I like to do to help assist in getting the greens into the jar, because we didn't break these up, we didn't chop them up in any way. I like to take my scissors and cut them just a little bit. So if you've ever bought canned greens, you know what I'm talking about, because it'll say mixed chopped greens or something like that. And same idea. It's just going to help me get them out and get them into the jars. And it's going to help put water in between these leaves a little better so that I can make sure that I put enough water in my jars. This is not a step you have to do. So I've chopped them up. So I'm kind of switching sides here because my jars are in here. Y'all, I hate it when I'm not organized, and right now I'm not feeling very organized. But anyway, we're going to do one jar at a time. And I tell you what, let's start with the quart jars. We're going to pour this water out. The only ingredient that I am going to use to can my greens is a teaspoon of salt in each jar. That's it. Salt and water. That's all I need to preserve them. You really don't need this, but it just keeps me pushing all the stuff on the inside the way I want it to be. The greens are warm. The greens are hot. So we're going to fill this jar up. And I want to make sure I don't pack it too tight. I want to make sure that I get plenty of water in there because we're going to be packing them in hot water as well. One more little bunch. And that's probably good. Let's get the next one out. On my video, I said I had 3 quarts. And I believe that's what I had. It's 3 quarts. I was kind of guessing at it. But I believe it might be 4 quarts. But we will see in just a moment here. There was a time that nobody ate greens but Mom and me. And so I could put them in smaller jars. But the last couple of times, little Miss Charlie been trying to eat all the greens. Not saving none for the rest of us. Which I'm not upset. We need to eat our greens. So now we'll get one of our 1.5 pint jars. I got boiling water going over there. All right, we're going to make this work. We're not going to overpack anything. And it looks like we're not underpacking either, so that's good. Put it in there. Can't waste any of it. So the only thing we need to add is the water. We'll go ahead and get this jar out because I don't need it. We'll save it for another day. We'll fill our jars with water, boiling hot water. And you're going to see how it looks full and it's not because of all of the air bubbles. And I'm going to show you how we're going to remove those air bubbles next. So now I'm using a chopstick and I'm just kind of poking around the side of the jar to release as many of those air bubbles as I can so that I can make sure that I get the right amount of water in these jars. And with them being greens, you know, there's so many places where the air bubbles can kind of get trapped. So giving them a good push all the way around and in the center. Let's try to get all those air bubbles out. Now, there's been many a times that I didn't get them all out. I'm not perfect. I've messed up. And so then my jar is half full with liquid with the greens in there, and I try to use those first. But you see the water, maybe you can't see, but I fill the water all the way up to the top, and now the water is way down here. Actually, it's like that in all of the jars. So we're going to add more water to each one of these jars, and then we're going to do this process again to make sure that we get all the air bubbles out. We are pressure canning, so we're supposed to leave, I think it's 1 inch of headspace. I think I just double checked. It is 1 inch of headspace, which basically is just to the bottom of the rim. But there are tools out there that'll show you exactly what 1 inch of headspace is. I just don't use them. I used to years ago, but I've been canning so long at this point, I don't use that anymore. I know it's roughly at the bottom of the rim. If I was water bath canning, I could go a little bit higher, but for pressure canning, you need that 1 inch of headspace because you are bringing the temperature well above boiling, well above. And that's how you kill off all that bad germs, bacteria, you know, all of those type things that could make you sick. We're killing all of that off. And that's what allows the food to preserve because you've killed all of those things off and it's no longer a problem. For low acidic foods like greens, you have to, in order to kill off all that bad stuff, you have to bring the temperature up well above boiling. And you can't do that naturally on the stove. And that's why you do it under pressure. If you're under pressure, you can get the contents inside this jar well above the temperature of boiling. I mean, well above it. And you need to stay above that temperature for a period of time. For leafy greens in quart-sized jars, I need to stay above that temperature to that of the pressure. What is that? I think we're doing 10 pounds of pressure, I think is what we're doing on here. But I need to stay at 10 pounds of pressure on these jars, or 15 or whatever it is, for 90 minutes. That's the kill zone. It has to stay in that kill zone for the right duration of time. So that's why you need to follow the directions on the canners, in your books, all of that kind of stuff. Whether I'm using traditional pressure canning or electric pressure canning, make sure you follow the instructions and the process so you can make sure you're canning a safe product. The next thing that we need to do, now that we got all of the air bubbles out, we're going to wipe the rims. And one, you want to make sure the rims are clean, which if I was dealing with a food that might have a greasiness to it, right? Grease is bad. You could put a little vinegar on here to make sure that rim's nice and clean. This is also your opportunity to make sure there's no nicks, dings, or anything wrong with the rim of the jar, which could keep the jar from sealing properly. You're going to put your lids on. Now, some people sterilize the lids. I don't. And the reason I don't sterilize the lids is because isn't that the job of the pressure canner? I'm just saying, right? That's what this is doing. It's making a safe product. It's going to be sterile for us because that's the work that it's doing. My grandmother used to sterilize the jars. She sterilized the lids, the rings. She sterilized everything. I just make sure they're nice and clean. They don't have any rust spots on them or anything like that, right? They're not all dinged up and banged up, right? I just make sure they're good rings. All of my canning, the companies I use for rings, lids, jars, all of that kind of stuff will be in the description below. But anyway, you make it finger tight, just like that, finger tight. I like to go back and check it one more time. But once you got it finger tight, let me bring you in close. Okay, so we're going to get our jars in, putting them right in the canner. Now, the jars can touch. I try to leave a space in between them. You don't have to do that, but got the jars in the canner. And I only have 3, and it's still saying fill jars, right? It's waiting for me to do this step. It's not going to do anything else until I do this step here. So I got the jars in. I'm closing the lid. And now I'm going to say, yep, I filled the jars. We good. Oops, sorry. And now this means start. So now it's heating. It will continue to heat, and it's going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Once it gets to the right pressure, it's got to stay at that pressure for 10 minutes, and it'll start counting down from 10 minutes. Once the 10 minutes is up, it's going to beep at me and tell me to put the regulator on. But it's not telling me to do it yet, so I am done until it tells me to do something else. I'll bring you back when it tells me what to do next. I'll just start cleaning the kitchen while we're waiting. All right, I just want to take a minute to show you that the counter is counting down. It's got 8 minutes. It's venting, and it's going to vent until it goes down to 0, and then I will put the regulator on. Okay, the pot is beeping at me, and it's telling me that it's ready to can, and I need to put the regulator on is what it's telling me to do. Here's my regulator. The regulator is now on, and I need to let it know, go to the next step. And now it is going to cook for 90 minutes. When it gets done, it's going to cool, the pressure is going to come down, and then it'll let me know I can open it. So for now, I need to just wait. One other thing. It took me a minute to put the regulator on, so it's got to make sure it's back up to pressure and it didn't lose anything. When it's truly at pressure, there's a little pin right here. Right here. It's going to pop up. That's going to keep me from being able to turn this green latch. Once that pops up, then that's when the 90-minute countdown will start. So I'll be back in 2 or 3 hours, or in the morning, one or the other, but I'll bring you back to close this out right. Okay, the canner is done. The greens are done. Here's the canner telling me it's done. I've already taken the top off. There are my 3 jars right there. When I take the jars out of the canner, I like to open the canner and then I let it sit 5-10 minutes or so to kind of let it normalize with the atmosphere, to try to keep it from siphoning out the juice that's inside the canner. So it's been sitting for a few minutes. We're going to lift it up and we're just going to set it out just like that. I try not to shake it too much. I try to keep it upright. And this is where it's going to sit. Eventually we're going to hear the lids go, and that means that it's sealed. We'll leave it sitting like this for at least 24 hours to make sure we have a good seal. We are going to remove the rims from the jars, but y'all, that's it. These are set. We will have 3 meals of turnip greens in a jar for a future date. And this will last 2 or 3 years or longer, but definitely longer than it would last if it was in the refrigerator. That's it. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Tell your family, your friends about it. In the comments, tell me what else you want me to can, or at least show you that I'm canning, because the canning season has begun, because we got to get this stuff out the garden and into a state where it'll last for a very long time for my family and my friends to enjoy. So until next time, and I hope there will be a next time that you hang out at Kim's Cozy Corner with me. Bye.